Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and Charli Hicks and Leslie Sessoms are here, and we are the moderators for the Facebook page Texas Women Photographers Circle. Some of you may not know or may not be on Facebook, so we've created an Instagram page at Texas Women Photographers, and we will post all of the monthly meetings there so that you can join us. Every month, I'm going to introduce you to a guest that I hope will inspire you to try something new that will help you improve your photography. These virtual meetups are open to every woman, so please feel free to let your friends know about them. Our guest tonight is Heather Foster. Heather is a freelance graphic designer, website builder, brand stylist, and a social media manager. Her website is starstreetcreative.com. And in her presentation, Heather will talk about why you should be using Instagram for more than just posting pretty pictures. If you've been thinking about selling prints, getting published, or starting any kind of business, then I think you'll find Heather's presentation helpful. If you have any questions, just place them in the chat and I'll put those in front of her. And after Heather finishes her presentation, I'm going to chime in with some of my thoughts about how I use Instagram and some of the things that have worked for me. So welcome again to the Texas Women Photographers Circle. Heather, thank you for doing this presentation for me, because I know it was last minute for me to go, hey, Heather, do this. So I appreciate you. And I don't always say that, but I really, really, really do. So thank you. Thank you for going first.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I hopefully I can get things kicked off, and then the presentations after this will only get better. Let's just say that. We'll start off with a little rough draft that's me. And then the ones that are coming next week, and then the weeks beyond will, or the months beyond will be greatly improved upon. So I know I'm gonna talk down about myself for just a little bit.
You need to stop it, because I will slap you later. So.
But no, Linda Nickell is the one person I cannot say no to, unfortunately, but usually to my benefit. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for including me. I'm happy to see some faces that I kind of know from working with other things with Linda. So I'm excited to get to talk to you all about the wonder that is Instagram. Like Linda said, I'm a social media manager. First and foremost, I'm a graphic designer, brand stylist, and website builder, but social media management is what pays the bills lately. And I've been working with Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, a little bit of Twitter, and a little bit of YouTube lately. But Instagram really is kind of my bread and butter. So I'm excited to kind of share with you just a few things about how you can make Instagram work best for you, and for your photography. It's a little bit more than just like, oh, I'm going to post a pretty picture today. There's some really cool things that can come out of maintaining a really great Instagram feed. And I'll kind of share some tips and tricks with you as to make Instagram a little less scary and a little less like a job. So that it works in your schedule, it works for your lifestyle, whether you're looking to build a business or, photography is just a hobby. Let's get your pictures out there and get them in front of the eyes, and maybe let's create some opportunities for you. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Sweet. I'm going to share my screen. So like I said, I'm Heather Foster of Star Street Creative, and this is Instagram for photographers. I should have some theme music. Didn't cue that up. All right, so gone are the days where we can rely on word of mouth alone to build an audience for our brands and services and our work and our art. Nowadays, you have to have that seal of approval and that little stamp and check mark, like I've got my Instagram account, I got my Facebook account, and now, got to have a website too, just hint, hint. So why Instagram? So I put together a little bit of a bullet point list. So number one, it's expected. Everybody's got one now. Instagram just hit, I think it was over 1 billion users last year. That number has gone up between the beginning of 2021 and the beginning of 2022 because we've all been stuck at home. We've been busting out our phones and taking pictures and sharing our lives since we can't see people in person. Instagram's also a great way that businesses are getting the word out there about what they sell. So as photographers, if you're looking to build a business, selling prints, booking, maybe you want to blog or write for a travel magazine and take photos, or start your own blog. This is a way to advertise that and to sell yourself as a photographer. Maybe you want to teach classes. How are you going to get the word out about that? It builds trust. So when I'm online and I'm looking for a business to, maybe I need a dog groomer. I've got 2 big hairy dogs. Maybe I need a dog groomer. If I'm looking and I just Google dog groomer Fort Worth, because that's where I live, if I can't see their work, if their website's a little sketch and they're, I can't see, they have an Instagram following, people are responding to their work, I'm not going to trust them as much as I would maybe a company that has all of those things. It's another little check mark that you need to have. And just like with Texas Women Photographer Circle, you find your tribe. We've got a group of over 40 of us in this room now, and all of you guys have something in common. You found your tribe through this Facebook group. Now you can find your tribe in little pockets of tribes all around Instagram. If it's not, just photography, I do graphic design, but I also love to crochet. And I have joined this tribe of fiber artists on Instagram. It's a great place to build community, to share and swap ideas, to admire other people's work. It's such a great, I keep using the word community. It is. It's a great community. If you have a website, kind of going back to selling prints and selling yourself, you want to drive traffic to that website. Just using Google alone, the likelihood of you showing up in the top of those search results is pretty slim. But if somebody spots that your photo on Instagram, like, hey, I like that stuff, I want to see more of what they've got going on, and you've got that little link in bio on your profile, they can click on that, get to your portfolio, get in contact with you, maybe buy some stuff. It's a great next step. It opens you up to the world. Reputation management. This is mostly if you have a business. A lot of people out there nowadays like to talk smack, but this can kind of help you get the word out there like, hey, no, I'm Linda Nickell and I'm not weird and I'm not, I didn't kick that waitress. She doesn't kick waitresses, trust me, y'all. I can see her face over there. Like I did that one time. So it helps you kind of keep your reputation in check. Kind of going back to the tribe, it helps you network. It helps you find those connections. Just like with Linda, who knows a bunch of people, she's met most of us through Instagram and through social media channels. Like, I know that, I'll use an example, like Michelle's from the Big Thicket. Like, I know somebody out in the Big Thicket. Maybe I'm going to head out there and take pictures. I want to make swamp sexy again. That is Michelle's new hashtag. And like, I'm gonna go get in contact with her. I know that's my swamp gal. I mean that in the kindest way, Michelle. And last but not least, everybody else is doing it. Join us. Come and join the clan and the cult of Instagram. I went on for a while about that. I need to calm down. Maybe I shouldn't have had as much caffeine as I had today. So now you got your Instagram, and here are the best practices to kind of get the ball rolling on building up a following, getting your toes wet. Even if you already have an Instagram, maybe you want to build upon it. Maybe you want it to work a little harder for you. I've got a few things that we're going to talk about, that little tips, practices, tricks that we can do to kind of get that going. So first, we're going to start off with maximizing your profile. And this is the easiest thing to get started with. It can be intimidating because you're like, I don't know what to say. Who am I? What? But trust me, this little thing, and this is my handsome boyfriend, by the way, that maximizing your profile is what is going to be the thing that people can read. They know who you are. They know what you look like, and they'll know how to get in contact with you. So let's break this down. So we've got the profile picture. If you're selling yourself and you're selling who you are as a photographer, make sure that that profile picture is you, and maybe not a picture of a bird or a butterfly or a tree. It may be a beautiful bird, butterfly, or tree, but we want to see your face. We want to connect with the person that's running this account. Number 2, make your username your actual name or your business name. You know, Linda said earlier that I know some of you buy your Instagram handles, but I don't recognize your name. Think of it, Linda's not maybe the best example, but if she's somebody who doesn't know you and doesn't know that immediate connection to you, I don't know how to refer to you if you're Dolphin Girl 82. Who's Dolphin Girl? What does this have to do with photography? So start thinking about that. Also keep in mind, small asterisk caveat, is that if you've already got Dolphin Girl 82 as your Instagram profile name or your username for Instagram, you can change it. It's okay. It's very easy to do. If you need some help, holler at me. All right, next one down. So use the space where your name would be to let people know about your business. So my handsome boyfriend has a photography business, and it's Michael Rung Photography. He is Michael Rung. He does photography. Using that title, it connects a name with a face and lets people know what it is that you do. Second part of this is when you set up your Instagram profile, I would recommend setting it up as a creator or as a business profile. We can get into that later on, or if you have any questions about it, drop it in the chat and I'll answer it later. But number 1, you want to use your category to let people know what you do. So again, this kind of helps Instagram sort you. So if somebody is searching specifically for a photographer, you're going to pop up in those search results if that's listed as your category. Next down, you've got your bio. Now, this is where things can get a bit tricky because you're only given 150 characters to make an impact. Instagram just announced that they're going to start implementing keywords in SEO, which is search engine optimization. So you want to get as many of those impactful keywords, especially if you're using it, if you're a photographer, if you're a landscape photographer, portrait photographer, bird photographer, make sure you get those words in your Instagram bio. You can't just be like, I'm Linda and I love flowers. Okay, cool. But what are you doing with those flowers? You're taking pictures of them? Let's, kind of jazz it up a little bit and make sure that in there you have a call to action. You want to tell people in your bio, give them something to do. It can't be just enough to read it. Like Michael here has email or send me a direct message for more info. That's telling people, hey, this is what I want you to do. Click this link below here. Let's get in touch. Let's do some stuff. Let's collaborate. Let's do a workshop. So speaking of the link in bio, so that's down there at the bottom. So you want to make that a one-stop shop for people to get to. So most of the time, people just use their regular website address, so www.lindanickell.com. But if you have more than one link, like maybe you've got a link to your blog, or maybe you want a link to a show that you're about to do, you can switch those out as many times as you want to. And just make sure you let your followers know, like, hey, click the link in bio to get tickets or purchase prints. Make sure you're telling them something to do. That's very, very important. I know these are all guys, and I was trying to find some girl photographers out there to use as examples. But these are some really great examples of some big name photographers, maybe not super big name, who have done a really good job of maximizing their biographies in their Instagram profiles to give a call to action, tell people what they do, maybe give a shout out to, Simon Baxter has a dog that has its own Instagram and she's really cute. Drive traffic to there. But they show a bit of personality as well. But to summarize, I am talking really fast. To sum up, with your Instagram bio, don't overthink it, but think about it a bit. I should get that tattooed somewhere. All right, so we've maximized our profile. Next thing to do is to create a bit of content. And this is where you guys should have it pretty easy because you guys have beautiful content to share pretty much all the time. But I got lots to say about it. Go figure. So number 1, you want to maintain a consistent, that's a keyword, and interesting Instagram feed. Number 1, and this is actually something I've rearranged this list a couple of times today. Number one is know the value you provide every time you post. So if you're looking to educate, to inform, to share, to inspire, make sure that that is in your caption and that caption matches the image. I can't express how those two kind of have to merge together. I'm tripping over my tongue here just a little bit. But that is first and foremost is providing value. That's going to help build a community around your profile. It's not just, oh, that's a pretty picture. Make sure you're telling a story along with it. And that's kind of getting down to number 4. Let's back up to number 2, which is high quality visuals, photos, and graphics. Quality over quantity. You guys, you have an arsenal of beautiful photos. I just know it. That's not the problem. You guys have plenty of content to post. Make sure you're telling and sharing stories, giving value. For example, I'm going to go back to Michelle, my sexy swamp girl. If she's posting something, share something about the big thicket. What do you love about it? What are your top 3 tips about photographing in the big thicket? Or my friends down, in South Texas, you're photographing on the ocean. What's it like to photograph by the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico at wintertime? What do you have to watch out for? Is there anything tips and tricks you can share that's going to be of value to your followers? Number 3, keep it on brand and on message. So with this, I've seen some photographers kind of do this on their Instagram feeds, is that they'll be beautiful photo, landscapes, maybe a cityscape, and then there'll be a picture of their cat. Nothing wrong with a picture of your cat. I love cats, but it is a little disjointed. It's out of place. It's not part of your brand. If you want to post pictures of your cat, let's start a second Instagram account. I have 5 Instagram accounts. I have one for my cat, one for my dog, one for me, one for my crochet, one for my business. And depending on what I want to share with my followers, I pick which different account I'm going to share it to so that they know, oh, I'm not going to get a cat photo under Star Street Creative. And I'm not going to get a crochet photo on the cat's Instagram. Just kind of keep things separated and make sure that you're keeping your followers who are following a certain account, make sure you keep them happy. I've already kind of touched on telling stories and sharing experiences. Photographers are masters of helping people feel like they're somewhere. Like Pat was saying earlier when we were all chatting kind of in the mixer about her photo of her granddaughter, and you could feel the wind, and it wasn't necessarily a landscape photo, but you felt something when you look at it. You guys, whether it's a picture of bluebonnets, a picture of your granddaughter, or a senior portrait of, a girl about to graduate high school, make your followers feel like they're there. Write that down in the caption, share that experience, a little behind the scenes tips and tricks, or a little behind the scenes insight. Share your stories, share what you experienced. After you have been posting for a while, get an idea of what's really clicking with your followers, especially if you want to grow and you want to start using Instagram and your social media as a platform to, accomplish what we all want to accomplish, which is to be, Instagram famous and have a ton of followers. Is you got to keep giving them what they want. If you notice like, oh, my landscapes aren't doing so great, but they seem to really be responding to these, deer in the woods photos, or ones that have mist. That those are the ones that are going to elicit a bigger response from your followers. So maybe kind of give them a bit more of that. Still stay true to yourself. If you like photographing sunflowers, stick to that. But Instagram is a little bit about, oh, that's what people like. So the last one for an interesting feed is stay on top of new trends and features and use them. Instagram is I gave a presentation for it with Linda last year, and already so much has changed, and that was less than a year ago. I'm constantly having to educate myself on the new stuff that's coming out, how to use it, why use it. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to get on there and start doing, all the dances. I'm sure you guys have seen the trendy dances, but Instagram Reels is kind of where it's going, and we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. So before we really move on, so one of the questions I get asked all the time is like, what's the magic formula? How often should I be posting? Does this need to take over my life? And the taking over the life, absolutely not. Do not let Instagram take over your life. Unless you're making money from it, then maybe so. But Instagram is for fun. Don't let it take over your life. So I follow this woman, and she is an Instagram master. So she has a direct line to Instagram. She gets all of the stuff first, all the new features. They tell her what's what. And this is what she came out with. This is the magic formula, according to Instagram, is that you need to post to your stories daily. You need 3 to 5 times to post to your feed 3 to 5 times a week. You need to post 4 to 7 reels a week, and then use maybe IGTV, Instagram Live, or a guide once a week. That is ridiculous, and you don't need to do that. That would take up, 2 hours of your day, or set aside an entire day and a weekend to get all of that scheduled. It's ridiculous. It's a headache. Don't worry about that. So I came up with the Heather guide, the realistic formula. So stories are really easy to share. When we get into, there's going to be a section about kind of building community. You can share other people's content. If there's like a photo that Linda posted and you really like it, you can share that in your story and be like, hey, check out this gorgeous photo that Linda Nickell took. She's going to appreciate that because it's getting the word out about her work. She's going to be like, oh, who's that chick who just shared my photo? She's probably going to go and look at your stuff, and maybe she'll give you a follow, and maybe she'll share some of your stuff. And maybe just not Linda, maybe it's any photographer that you see like, hey, they're doing some cool stuff. Let me share that. So stories is pretty easy. And that's why I said, let's keep it to 5-ish times a week. It's also a great place to post content that you feel maybe wouldn't work in your feed. If you want to keep your feed nice and pristine and all of your landscape photos or bird photos or macro photos, but you can post them like, oh, I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and I took a picture of this pen. Post that in your stories. You're not bombarding your followers with any sort of content that they don't vibe with because it's not in your feed. It's kind of a place to hide all the fun stuff, but it also bumps you up to the front of the line because stories are right up at the top and you can just click on it and watch them and skip them, what have you. It's just a great place to just post some stuff. Maybe that's not going to go on your gallery wall. So that brings us down to feed posts. 3 times a week, y'all. Just 3 times. It's fine. If you want to post more, post more. If you want to post less, post less. We could get into the whole thing about the Instagram algorithm and posting more. It's going to bump you up. True-ish. But the Instagram algorithm has changed literally in the past 6 weeks. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, and whoever is listening from Instagram as I do this, it's really not. So don't stress too much out about, oh, I didn't post 3 times this week. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I will say, next one down is Reels. Reels, I just got into. It is what's next. If you want to grow on Instagram, and I'm so sorry to say this, if you want to grow on Instagram, Reels is where it is at. And what Reels are is like teeny tiny little videos. You can post them and throw them up in your stories. You can post them into your feed. You can do it something as simple as you can just talk to your phone and just like, hey guys, it's Linda. I'm out here in the blue bonnets. It's cold, whatever. And post that. That will increase. And I've seen the numbers. It can increase your following by 400 to 700%. I will give you a quick example. I started an Instagram account for my crochet. That's what I do to calm down. It keeps me from killing people. I started this account for fun. I made a cute little reel where I was throwing some yarn balls around, and then they turned magically into like a little head warmer thing that I had made. At first I got like 4 views, and then it got picked up by the algorithm, and I'm now sitting at 2,000 views. And my followership has gone up. I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm not a natural blonde, but it sinks in. I went from 10 followers up to 40, so it multiplied by 4 with that one little nonsense reel that I made. Reels is where it's at. So I would say start getting comfortable being on camera, or figuring out how to kind of make little videos using our little friend phone here to share where you are, share what you're doing, share your equipment, what you're working with this week. There's an audience for it out there, and they will love you for posting it. Next on down, I'm going to skip over it. Well, I'm not going to skip over it. I'm going to glaze over it because I think it's a bunch of nonsense. IGTV, Instagram Live, and guides. Maybe once a month. I wouldn't stress out about it. They may pop back up again with Instagram and be a big deal, but don't worry. Stories, feed posts, reels. Those are going to be your big 3. Rest, don't worry about it. All right, so we got our content created. Next, we're going to grow audience and visibility. And this will be pretty quick. This kind of looks like a weird
heart.
Yeah. Very on brand for Valentine's Day. So this I kind of touched on previously, which is post consistently and when your audience is online. So I got this graphic off of a website called Sprout Social, which is really great. It's sproutsocial.com. Tons of information if you are curious about social media and like how you can build your business on social media. Sprout Social has a blog that is perfection. They post almost every day, and it's really, really great content. So regardless of what time zone you're in, because I know that we've got some friends on the East Coast, we've got, give it up for Central Time. No matter what time zone you're in, everybody is on social media. It looks like about lunchtime. So you want to make sure that you're posting when people are online. Now, mind you, that can be a little bit of a catch-22 because that's when everybody's posting and you might get a little bit lost. So kind of play around and see like, okay, well, I posted at 10:30 and this is the traction that I got on that post. Let me see what's going to happen at noon and see if that's something that works better. And then you can kind of find where your audience, that sweet spot where they're online. It might take a little bit of experimentation, or what I like to tell my clients, like we're going to throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and we're going to see what sticks, and it's going to take some time, but we'll figure it out. So that's what I recommend to you. Like I said before with about Instagram stories, you jump the line. So if you're like, oh, maybe I didn't get that post in at my lunchtime time slot, let me hop on with stories. Let me get some content out there. Let me get my profile in front of some people. That's always just a great way to get something out there. It's easy, it's quick. You don't have to write a caption. Ugh, if I could just get through Instagram without writing captions, I'm awful at it. I am not a storyteller. I'm a talker, as you can tell. Next one down is using hashtags. I love Instagram to bits. However, they go back and forth about hashtags. You want to use some hashtags. That's how you're going to get found. That's how groups like the one you're in, this Texas Women Photographers, that's how they're going to see your content and know, oh, this is what Pat wants me to see, because she used the Texas Women Photographers Circle hashtag. It's a way to get found, to be seen, to get searched for. Linda's got a pretty good story about how she was found using hashtags. They are the devil and saints and helpful and terrible all at the same time. But it's definitely worth looking into. And I know that Linda's got some really great tips and tricks for hashtags. coming up. So the next one down is a slippery slope that is tagging brands, followers, locations, wherever you can. I talked to my boyfriend, like I said, he's a photographer. He gets a bit iffy about posting locations because let's say you take a photo and by miracle of miracles, it goes viral and people want to know where you took that photo. There are so many environments around here that are getting trampled by people rushing to get that photo. Where there wasn't there a place out in California, there was a beautiful field of flowers. And it like just got totally destroyed because this one photo went viral and then everybody had to go get that photo. So you want to kind of keep it cagey, and you can put in your caption, like, if you're interested in this location, DM me. And then they have to do a little bit of work to find out where you took that photo, but you're not advertising it to the world. So that's on locations. Tagging brands, make sure if you're tagging a brand, let's say you're taking a photo with a Canon DSLR. I don't know, I'm not a photographer. Is that a camera? That's a camera. Not, yes. Okay. Sure. So if it's a beautiful camera, maybe you've got a new Tamron lens, tag them. They might share that content. You never know. But I wouldn't tag like, oh, drinking my at Starbucks drink with carrying my at Samsung phone. Be thoughtful. Also, don't tag brands just to tag them. I've heard stories of people getting tagged, people who have big followings, getting tagged in other people's photos. It just annoys them and they're not going to share your content. Make sure it's thoughtful and with purpose, not just for attention. If that makes sense. Also, followers. With this, it can also be kind of a slippery-ish slope. Make sure you kind of have permission from that person. Or just say, hey, so, at Cousin Linda, saw this photo, thought of you, want to take a trip here? Like, that's something you could do. Or, I go back to Michelle because she's my swamp lady. Oh, saw this is in Louisiana. Is this anything like what the big thicket looks like? You're getting her attention. People are going to see like, oh, they tagged this person. Maybe I can go check them out. There's all these little spider web connections that you can make and create by tagging people, but don't do it excessively. Be kind. All right, moving on. So we've done our growing our audience and our visibility. The next thing, and this kind of ties back into the previous slide, is driving engagement. And this is never going to go out of style. This is not going to be something that Instagram's going to get rid of or tweak. This is going to be consistent all the time. Do it. So give your audience more of what they want. We kind of already talked about that. They like stuff, give it to them, especially if you want to grow. If you want to be like, no, I'm going to stick to my aesthetic and do what I want to do and screw them, that's fine. Do your jam. But you may not grow as quickly as you think you are. Or you're not going to grow as quickly as you might want to. Number 2, this is the big one. Like, share, comment on other people's posts. If you like it, if you see a photo and you like it, double click on it, make sure you give them that heart. Be great to comment on it. Just a smiley face is not going to cut it. You need to have genuine engagement. Again, we go to Linda. If I see a beautiful photo that she's taken of some blue bonnets during the sunset, I'm going to make sure to like that photo. I'm going to say, hey, Linda, Nickell, this was amazing. Great shot. And make it mean something. It has, for it really to count, honestly, make it over 3 words long. Like, write a sentence. It's nice. Exclamation points, emojis, the whole shebang. And then do Linda a solid. Do that person that you like their photo, do them a solid favor and share their content. Not necessarily in your feed, but like what we discussed before, put it in your stories. Love this photo from Linda Nickell. You should check her out. Share it with your followers. Spread the word. Build a community. And we're all women. Let's help each other out. Yeah. Number 3 is be there for your followers. So that means on your own feed, if somebody reaches out and they like and comment on your post and say, this is a great shot, wonderful, make sure you're saying thank you and engaging with them. If they feel like, it's going to make them feel like, there's another person on the other end of this. They're just not, quick, post this picture, done. Imagine you're in a gallery. You're the artist who's walking around and somebody wants to pull you aside and say, hey, this is amazing. Good job. That's what Instagram's doing. You wouldn't just be like, bye, and then walk off. You'd say, thank you. It's the same thing. Courtesy, politeness. It gets you a long way, and it really does help build those bonds and that community even more. Next one down, give your followers something to do. In your captions, give them a call to action. Hey, if you like this photo, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Let me know your thoughts. Instagram's a great place to get feedback, positive and negative. But it's also how we grow as artists. I've gotten many comments of that is garbage. I'm like, is it garbage? Or are they looking at it in a different way? Just give your followers something to do. Next one down, tell stories. You guys are visual storytellers. You may not be great copywriters. I'm definitely not. But make sure you're sharing that with people. Help them get immersed in your world, the world of that photograph, the world of that trip. And of course, going back to give value. Tips and tricks are always helpful. 3 places to see. We went to Big Bend. Here are my top 3 tips for photographing in Big Bend. Or things not to do in Big Bend, or things not to do in the Big Thicket. Help people understand more about what you do, and it'll make you an authority on that subject. I hope I'm making sense. And this is kind of my mantra for any sort of social media is don't aim for more followers, make more connections. The followers will come. Don't worry about that number. Make those connections and put in, I like to call it my 2% rule, 2% of your day. 2% of your day is 30 minutes. My 30 minutes is I get up, I make myself a hot drink. Usually it's hot tea. I sit on the couch with my trusty phone and I go through social media, as probably most of us do when we've got some downtime. And that's when I do my making connections. I go through and I like the photos that I like. I comment on them. I share what I can. And it's 2% of my day. I've got plenty of other time to do other stuff. And once that 2% is done, I step away. I don't think about social media for a while. And it kind of keeps my sanity, what's left of it, intact. And there we go. The last one is don't stress out. So social media is not anything to get super stressed out about unless it is your job, which is partially part of my job. But it's not that big of a deal. We're all winging it. We're all trying our best. We're all just trying to build a community or join a community and participate in this new world, or not so new anymore. So don't get too worked up about it. It's all easy and fun. And yeah. And that, my friends, is my presentation. I did create a page on my website that has a lot of links, tips, tricks, and resources to kind of expand on what I've already talked about if you guys want to do some further reading. There is also a link on there to a woman on YouTube, really quick plug for her. We're not friends or anything like that, but I follow her on Instagram, on YouTube. Her name is Modern Millie, and she is the woman who has like the direct connection to Instagram. Her videos, she is younger, but she's not a in your face person. She very well thought out very informative and up-to-date information about Instagram. And her link is on this page. So it is starstreetcreative.com/TWP for Texas Women Photographers.
Thank you for doing that, Heather. Okay, there's a couple of questions that I'll throw at you, and if you don't know the answer, I'll try to muddle my way through them. So Tracy is asking, she says, I've noticed what appears to be a white frame that appears to be that some photographers use. She wants to know, how do they do that? So
when I used to work with an architecture firm who wanted me to post for their social media, and we did sort of the white frame around some of their photos. And I did that in a program called Canva, which is a free photo editing graphic design resource, kind of along the lines of Photoshop if you use the Adobe suite, except Canva is so much easier. And they have lots of social media templates. I do have the link to Canva on that website that I shared with you guys earlier that redirects you to mine. That is what I did. And you set up, so if you have the Instagram box is 1080 by 1080, you just set up a template for 1080 by 1080, install, upload your photo to it, and then just shrink your photo down or crop it so that you have that nice white border. It'll allow you to save it and download it as a JPEG or as a PNG file, depending on what size you want it to be. And then you can just post it from there. Also, cool thing about Canva is you can directly post from Canva into your Instagram account. All you have to do is just link them up together. Magic.
So Charli she wants to know if you tag a brand. She knows that they can repost, but are you also giving them permission to use your image elsewhere, maybe like in print?
Again, that's kind of an interesting thing. If they, with the brands that I manage on social media, I always ask if they've tagged the brand that I represent. I always go in, I thank them for tagging us. This is awesome. Would you be okay if we use that photo for our account?
Yeah.
It may not be, if they share it in their stories, that might be a different thing. But if they want to share it to their feed, then they should ask for permission. It just kind of depends on what you're
I'm thinking I'm going to assume Charli's asking, what if she is using a particular yarn and she's made something really kind of cool, and they use that picture in their yarn advertising. So no, they cannot do that. And basically, without written permission, you've not given them permission. You are now entitled to some compensation for that image. And if you find that image, get yourself a lawyer, because that's a lawsuit. So they can't just use your images without your permission.
No, and that's also where it kind of gets into, like, make sure you've got, if you don't already, get a watermark.
Yep.
And put them on there.
Okay. That being said, watermark really won't save you either. So with just a little dab of a Photoshop wand, it's gone.
True, but at least you have documentation that if things do get to a legal point, like, no, this was watermarked, and it's obviously that they fixed that.
Yeah. So. And I also, for myself, I leave the metadata in the file. So anything I post, it kind of goes with it. So kind of keep that in mind. Jody has problems tagging, so she doesn't really know how. So do you want to?
Oh, no. Sure. Yeah. Sure. I'm going to do it on my phone because it's a little bit easier. Okay. I'll just hold my phone up to the thingy. What's it? Okay. There we go. All right. So if I'm going to post a new picture, we'll do this gorgeous picture of my nephew wearing a hat that I made him for Christmas. All right. So let's see. Let's move on. We're posting it. We're not going to edit it or anything like that. Yep. So here's where I can put in my caption. And right underneath it says tag people. I don't know if that's showing up correctly.
It is.
When you hit tag people, it's going to ask you to tag the photo. So all I have to do is tap anywhere on the photo, and it's going to ask, who's this? And then you can type in @. Well, he doesn't have an Instagram because he's 2. But if it was Linda in that picture, I would do at cousin Linda or at Canon EOS, or, depending on who you want to tag, or what's relevant to the picture. Again, be wary of that. Don't just tag random stuff. But, with this, the yarn that I used is from a brand called Lion Brand Yarn. I could tag them in it. I use their product, that sort of thing. So it's really easy. It's just right under, whoop, there we go, right under where you would start typing your captions, the next one down.
Perfect. Okay, so Sue wants that link for your IG tips.
IG tips, I put it in the chat. Let's see.
Can you read that out loud just so that someone else is?
Sure.
They won't have the chat if they're watching.
Oh, it's starstreetcreative.com and then / T as in Tom, W as in walrus, P as in post office. Texas Women Photographers.
TWP. Yes.
TWP.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Alyssa wants to know, can you move from a personal page to a business Instagram page and keep your content and your followers?
Yes, absolutely. You don't need to create a new profile. You can actually switch it pretty easily. Let me open up my phone again. All right. So we go back. All right. So here we are this is my business Instagram page. So down here at the bottom, you've got your little icon. Sorry, this is so bright. So this will open up your profile. So this is my business Instagram. And then up here at the top, you've got a little hamburger menu. And it might be different on iPhone. I've been using Android forever and ever. So there we go, up at the top. So once you hit that little hamburger menu, which is right over here, come on.
Yeah, there you go.
So this top thing is going to be your settings. I'm trying to do this backwards and in a tiny little window, so please forgive me. All right, so it should be, as you scroll, come on, about halfway down, it should say account. And then you should be able, oh, they've changed this again. Oh, down at the very, very bottom, I scrolled all the way down.
Yeah, it's not working right there. Too bright.
Too bright.
Okay, just walk us through the menu.
Okay, so down at the very, very bottom, second to the bottom kind of tab, it says switch account type in blue. And then it'll bring up this little, damn it, pardon my French.
I was gonna say, just read it to us.
Okay, there's a little pop-up at the bottom and it says switch to business account or switch to personal account. So it's as easy as that. It literally, you hit it and then it changes it. It might ask you a couple of more things when, like right now I'm on a creator account. But if I switch to business, there's a few more things you kind of have to fill in, but you keep all of your followers, you keep your same user at like the at name, super easy peasy.
Okay. Just one, and then we're going to close you out, but there was a comment in there, that link that you've given, there are a couple of people have mentioned there's an error code, like a 404 code. So would you check that for us?
Let me.
Marcia, the question was, can you change your username without losing anything? Yes, you can. You can, I believe you can change your username at least twice within like a 14-day period. Let me caution you, when you change your name, stick with it and make sure, because I have somebody that has changed her name 4 times in the last year, and it is super, super confusing. And she was wondering why she was losing followers. And it was because people didn't recognize her. They kind of saw her pictures. And in fact, somebody sent her a note and said, I think someone's stolen your account. And she had to, no, that's me. She just changed her name. So just kind of think about it. If you're going to change it, kind of stick with it. Okay.
Oh, I saw in the comments, when you're typing in the link to all of the Instagram links that I created, The TWP, which is after the backslash, is all lowercase.
Okay. Okay. All right, Heather. All right. Thank you. I think I caught most of the questions. If I didn't, you guys can maybe retype them in the chat for me, and I'll scroll through them one more time. I kind of didn't want this meeting to go really long, so let me do my super quick presentation because Heather's covered a lot of stuff, but there's a couple of things that I don't think that she did that I thought, let me just see if it's worthy of a mention. So I live on Instagram. I love Instagram, and I was very late to the social media platforms, but Instagram is a way that, so Facebook, everybody I know is on Facebook. Facebook is great because your mother thinks you are the best photographer she's ever known. And your mother's friends love your pictures even more than your mom. And your photos are basically, they might share them, but they're not going to leave that circle. So that's why Instagram is super important. Because when you put those out there, you don't know who's going to see them. And that's something that I wanted to point out, because I got on Instagram as it's all fun and games. I still say that it's fun and games for me. I don't do this professionally. Photography is it's not even a side hustle. It's just something I enjoy. But who's looking? And that's the big question marks, because you don't know who's looking at your page. These are people that have found me through Instagram, photo editors, nonprofits. You've got people that want to buy prints. And it's funny because people will approach me and say, I'd like to buy this print. And I'm thinking, God, that's the worst photo. Did you not see what I posted yesterday? But you don't know what resonates with people. And I've had some experience with being published, and that's not to brag, but because I don't take this real seriously, I'm not afraid to ask the questions. And I've been able to speak to 3 editors, and I'm going to pass along something that Heather kind of hinted about. It's about how do editors find you? And so this is the first thing. It's about hashtags. And I'm talking about using a hashtag. So for instance, there is a camera company, a camera store in New York, and they decided they were going to work on a blog. And the idea of the blog is to look for photographers in all like 30 different cities across the United States. And they get to Austin, and she told me what I did was I looked for Texas photographer, hashtag Texas photographer, hashtag Texas images, hashtag Texas. And as she's using those hashtags as her search engine, she's saving photos. And then the next day, she'd probably save like 50 photos. And the next day she'll come back and, while she was waiting for her sandwich to be made, she kind of did another search. And at the end of the week, knowing that she's now at a point where she has to look for somebody to write this article and provide photos, she goes through those photos and she's like, no, I don't like them. And she'll keep the ones that she likes and she'll narrow down. And then she goes to their bio page. So your bio page is super important. The first thing she looks for is if there's a website, you're going to stay in her little batch of photos. If you don't have a website, she's going to do a real quick finger scroll, and she's just going to look at your gallery. And if you have something that doesn't look cohesive, so she might be looking for a cityscape, and you've got a great cityscape, and then you've got some puppies. Well, everybody loves puppies. And then she'll look and go, well, there's some architecture. And then there's a mishmash of things. Unless she loves that photo, she's not going to take you seriously as a photographer, because she's got a deadline and she doesn't know if you're going to A, return a message that she might send you, or B, that you're shooting high enough resolution for her projects. So that's something that you kind of need to think about. Next thing that she said, and is that she went to anybody that had a website, she particularly went to, and she looked, and if she couldn't quickly get your photos to load, so that's something that you might want to take a look at. on your websites. If your photos are not loading in less than 3 seconds per photo, you've lost her. She does not have time. She's moving on because there's so many other photographers that she can pick from. This particular lady, I spent a long time on the phone with her, asking her all the dumb questions, was also very forthcoming and saying, the first thing I noticed was you had a blog. So if you're at all going to do a website, having a blog just adds to your value. I mean, now she can look and see, without you even realizing it, she's looking at your articles. She's looking to see if you can write. Oh, your photos are great, but can you write? So those are the things that these editors are kind of playing around with. And then she basically said, I narrowed it down to 3 people. And the 3 people, I loved all of their photos. They were all beautiful, but yours stood out. And because you had a blog and you had a section, because she was looking for specific photos of Texas. I had a section of Texas photos, and she said, you made my life really easy because I could go through your Texas photos and get a feel of your work without having to even approach you. And so that's just something that keep in mind. You don't know who's looking. Just about 2 weeks ago, a nonprofit came to me and said, hey, we've been kind of watching your page and we are working on an ad campaign. Are your photos available? Because there's nowhere on my website that says that I sell prints. And because I have a website, they took me a little bit seriously. So I don't know how to emphasize this, but please consider, if you want to sell prints, you want to sell workshops, Instagram is a place they come to kind of stalk you before they even approach you. Or also, you might be stalked by other photographers looking at your locations and looking at the kind of work you're putting out, because you never know what, not to steal your photos, not to steal your ideas, but collaborating. So always be open to something like that. All right. Heather touched on it a little bit. I'm going to just kind of go off the top. There's a difference between hashtagging and tagging. Hashtagging is that search. It's kind of it's Instagram's version of a search engine. So if you can use a hashtag that said on a photo, let's say it's a Texas sunset and there's a windmill in it. If you're using windmills, use that hashtag. I know it's a pretty generic hashtag, but it helps your photos get into the feeds of other people that might be looking for windmills. So one of the things that I need to make sure that you understand, because a lot of people may not be here for business, but they just want to get featured on Instagram, you need to do your homework. So Instagram Texas is the largest Texas feature page. And a lot of people, I'll look at people's photos and I see hashtag Instagram Texas. That is not their hashtag. So if you think somebody at Instagram Texas is going to find your photo by using Instagram Texas, they are not. They're looking for IG Texas. It's the same thing for Texas highways. If you hashtag Texas highways, it's probably a photo of a highway in Texas. So Texas Highways uses True Texas. So the point of that little blurb is do your research. If you want to be featured on certain pages, make sure you're using their hashtag to make it easy for the person that is posting them or reposting photos. Tagging. So I'm a moderator on 5 pages right now. And one of the things that Instagram recently changed is, let's say I'm posting a photo of a deer, okay? And I want Instagram Texas to see it. And I tag you in the photo itself. You got to be really careful because all of a sudden that moderator, and with Instagram Texas, there's more than one moderator. There's like 10 of them. They call themselves hosts. So maybe John sees it and goes, that's a great picture, but I'm going to pass because he's not interested in looking for a deer picture today. But once John passes on it, those other moderators are not going to see those messages because they've already been read. So they've moved on. So try not to use at tagging in the photo itself, because it's a one-shot deal. So, and you've basically wasted a tag. So use them sparingly. When I use them, and I very rarely use them anymore for features because that's just not something I'm interested in, but I will tag someone like Heather, like I want her to see something, or I want a collaborative effort. So when I was posting the notice that Heather was being our speaker tonight, I tagged her so that she could then add it to her story. And that just gives her a heads up. Hey, I've tagged you. It's a collaboration. So that's what I really use them for. So be a little careful of overusing tagging. All right. Heather touched on a lot of this, so I'm not going to go over it. Engagement is super, super, super important. We're here to be inspired, or at least I am. I love looking at other people's photos that are not things that I, photograph, or not places I go to. Those people make me dream. And it works in reverse, because most of my followers are international Instagrammers. Texas is exotic, and they want to come and they want to visit and they want to see all the things that I'm seeing. And those opportunities have come to me, where I've been invited to, hey, do you ever come to Italy? I do. Why wouldn't I come to Italy? I've had those opportunities to meet other Instagrammers. So that's why I use it. And as one of the things to be very careful with is the follow for follow. You see it in hashtag, and when I see that, it just makes me so mad, because don't follow someone just because they're following you. Follow them because they are inspiring you. Their creativity is something that you just want to kind of take in and learn from. One of the pitfalls, and this is one of the things that you've got to be really careful. If you start following everybody that follows you, at some point you're going to be following so many people, you're not going to be able to keep up with your feed, and you're going to be so frustrated about all the garbage that's in your feed. So just try not to do that. I'm saying take out the trash. That means be mindful of the crap, for lack of a better word. There are so many Bitcoin and crypto do you want to buy followers? They are leaving comments. They're robots, they're bots. And so as soon as you post, those little messages, comments get placed on your page, go in there, delete them, block them, keep your page clean and tidy. Make sure that you spend the time and look at those comments and reply to those comments, because like Heather said, and I totally agree, it's about engagement. This is a social platform. If you're so caught up in selling prints or selling workshops, you're going to come across that way, and it's very difficult to get people to really spend the time looking at your photos. So be generous, be kind, share good content, don't be a spammer. And like Heather said, when I say don't be a spammer, there are people that post 4 or 5 times a day. And I'm somebody that doesn't follow a lot of people. And when my entire feed is that same person's 3 or 4 photos, it's just her stuff. It's very, very annoying. So try to avoid that if you can. One of the things that I think is really important is, Instagram is a place for people to kind of get a feel for your stuff before they hit that link to your bio, or that takes them to your website, or it takes them to whatever you have linked there. But consider there are other social media platforms like Facebook business pages. I think now you might have to pay for those. I'm not quite sure. I don't use Facebook that way, but Instagram is free. So why wouldn't you take advantage of putting your stuff in one more place that an audience can find you? Right now, Twitter seems to be the because there are so many photographers that are disgusted with how Instagram is moving towards being TikTokers and the reels. So they're going to Twitter, and I think there is going to be some life to Twitter, but it's just one more outlet that you can use. Reddit is a little difficult for me to really understand how to use, but the 3 or 4 times I've used it, I don't want to say that my photo went viral, but it went crazy wild. Much more engagement and sharing and exposure than Instagram. But that's not something that I really enjoy doing. So, but it's another outlet that I want to point out to you. My new favorite game is playing on LinkedIn. And one of the things that I really cannot overemphasize is photographers are not using LinkedIn to the maximum possibilities. And what do I mean by that? Is I'm not interested in selling prints. I'm really not interested in doing a whole lot with my photos other than having fun. But I sure get a kick out of being published. And one of the things you're going to find on LinkedIn are the editors of the magazines that you want to be published in. So go look at their profiles, see if they'll connect with you. It's just one more outlet, and it's free. Your personal blogs. A lot of people say they're not writers. I'm that person. I don't really enjoy writing. It doesn't come very easily to me, but every time I post a blog, you get a little bit more traction on your page, and your name gets out there, and Google starts loving you because you're adding new content to your blog. Now, let's say you like to write, but you don't really want to do, you don't want to have your own website. You don't want to have your own blog. Look for people that you can collaborate with. I'm going to plug, but one of the things that I did when I set up the Happiness Hour portion of my website is I started a community blog, and I invite people to come in and write a guest blog, and they are getting a backlink to my blog. So let's say Michelle, Swamp Lady, says, "Yeah, Linda, I'll do a blog post for you." She's going to be backlinked, which means that I'm going to link to her website, and her website might get a little push in the SEO, the search engine optimization, because there's a little bit of somebody has said, collaborated with Michelle. It doesn't bump you a whole lot. You're not going to be famous, but the more of those backlinks that you have on your websites, or just any of your social media, you're going to be a darling on Google. And I have to say that it's not that hard to do. It just isn't. So take advantage of those opportunities that are there. All right, I'm going to close out by saying resources. I do the Happiness Hour. I bring in a different speaker once a week, every week. We're coming up on our 100th episode, or session is how I call them. But the 3 that I want to point out to you, you'll find it on YouTube, Linda Nickell's Happiness Hour. Session 39. Chris Sebo is a friend of mine. He wasn't a friend he was somebody I met on Instagram, and he's turned into a dear friend, but he is the person that Texas Tourism, Texas Highways hired about 2-3 years ago to travel to Texas and photograph for their marketing campaign. And to this day, they hired somebody the next year because they try to change up the blood in there, but his pictures are still being used. So I made Chris sit down and talk a little bit about how are you getting these jobs, and he's been doing it for a long time. So that is an episode that you might find interesting. Miss Heather Foster, even though this was done last summer, I think, social media for photographers, Heather did a little bit more. We kind of rushed through tonight because we didn't want to take up too much time and here we're rambling. But she did say a lot of that has changed, but I still think it's a good resource to go back and see what else she had to say. Just a couple of weeks ago, I ran across this guy named Russell Graves, and he's always going to have like a little special place in my heart because I think Russell took he got his first photo published at age 19, and age 20, he got his first cover. And 30 years later, he is still doing this job. He's a full-time freelancer. He does some workshops on the side, but he was very, very, very candid about how to get some magazine work. So those are just three of the sessions that might just supplement some of the stuff we talked about tonight. And hopefully you've gotten a little bit more information and feel equipped. All right. So that being said, are there any questions in there? Let me just glance because I should have asked Leslie to help me with questions. I don't see anything in here. If we've missed anything, you're welcome to message me. JD says, why does everyone have to pigeonhole anyone's photography? You know what she's asking?
Is it like getting too far into a niche? Is that kind of what you're asking? Or
let's assume that that's what she's asking, and if it's not, maybe come back in because that's a good question.
It is. I mean, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself. You kind of have to walk a fine line between being true to yourself as a photographer or as an artist, but also kind of giving people what they want, especially when you're starting off on Instagram. If your goal with Instagram is to showcase, I always think as like as a gallery, you know, right. Are you going to have a collection is it going to be a bunch of random stuff, or are you going to treat your Instagram like a gallery collection where there is sort of like, oh, this is, I went to Yosemite. Here are my Yosemite pictures. Am I going to be the landscape photography woman? Or am I going to kind of mix stuff up? And you could totally do that. If you're into a bunch of different stuff, but give your followers a heads up. Like, hey, this week, my challenge to myself is it's going to be mountain march. And all March, you're going to post pictures of mountains and your experience photographing in the mountains. But, you know, maybe in April, it's going to be April showers, maybe, you know, photographing the weather. Right. Does that make any sense? So you don't necessarily have to pigeonhole yourself. You don't have to completely cater to your followers and what they're begging you for. But when I mean like stay on message, stay on brand, stick to your niche. Don't, you know, post mountain picture, butterfly picture, bird picture, and then a picture of maybe your family at Thanksgiving. Yeah. Yep.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think it comes down to, if this is fun and games and it's a personal page, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But the point here is, if you are trying to sell, get the attention of a publisher or get the attention of, if you want to be an ambassador, you've got to put your best work out there, because really, from just the very few conversations I've had with the people that are writing the check to me, they're like, I do not have time for this. You know, that this is the least favorite thing of their job. They're so they're consumed by, I've got a deadline and I've got to find these people and I've got to do it quickly. And so the easier you make their job, the more they're going to come back to you and go, hey, and that's something that, you know, has happened to me time and time again. And like I said, I don't do this for a living, but I was just lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
And a lot of it starts with hashtags and, you know, the simple thing of saying Texas photography. It's just one of those easy things that you could do. Now, these editors are going to wade through every selfie that use that, but that's just the way it works. Yeah.
So I just saw Jody, kind of going back to Jody. She says she shoots anything that catches her eye, and that's totally fine. If that's your jam,
Yep.
then live your truth. And I see that you travel in your RV. So maybe your niche is a pretty broad niche of travel photography. You're a nomad. Where are you at now? Where's Jody this week? And then kind of, and I see you have 4 Instagram accounts, Jody. Is it like a different Instagram account for different aspects of your life? Or do you have one photography, RV life? You can also cross promote. That's something, else to think about. Like, here's a picture of a really cool building that I saw on my trip in my RV. By the way, follow all of our adventures at Jody in an RV on Instagram. I'm just guessing. Yeah. But I'm not saying in order to be successful, and Linda and I are definitely not saying to be successful on Instagram, on social media, you have to stick to one thing. Yeah. Live your bliss, be your person, and the followers will come.
They will find you. They will find you. I always say that it's like people, your people are going to find you. You find, that's why I'm there. I'm looking for my people. Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. And let me say thank you, Heather, for doing this. Oh my goodness.
My pleasure.
I'd say I'd owe you, but I don't really ever pay up my debts. So let's just say thank you again.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And it's so nice to meet all of you guys. And thank you for having me and letting me join your little photographer crew.
Come back anytime. Okay, you guys can connect with Heather at starstreetcreative.com. And if you're on Instagram, look for her at Star Street Creative Co. Yeah, I thought, did she forget something? But okay, so next month, March 3rd, Oklahoma-based photographer Kelly Ishmael is going to join us, and she's going to introduce us to what she calls everyday magic. So keep an eye on the Facebook and Instagram pages for upcoming programs, and I hope that we will see you again next month.